Well, good morning, everybody. This is Lowell Whiteman, Dr. Whiteman, or Coach, bringing you 360 Performance every Friday, 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time here in the wonderful Denver metro area. At KUHS Radio, we are streaming to you on a daily basis, 24/7. Welcome to you today. We've got some great things to talk about today. Today, our theme is about resiliency, the how and the why. In the last few weeks, maybe even the last few months, there's been a lot of things in our world, both domestically and globally, that have tested our resolve. And recently in the Colorado area, in particular in Superior, Colorado, and the Marshall Mesa, Boulder area, Louisville, Broomfield, all of those towns were influenced by a tragic situation during the Christmas holiday. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about examples about resiliency and how to respond and manage your emotions when you're tested, when the world that you live in pushes you a little harder than you expect, and you're wondering, where do I find that energy to be resolute? That's our theme today. Resiliency, how and why. Each day with an intent to improve tomorrow. That's what we're doing here today at KUHS Denver on 360 Performance. Well, as we start every week, you know that we have a mindset moment, and today's mindset moment fits our theme extremely well from one of the world's greatest authors and poets. I'll just say it. Here it is. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. That's from Maya Angelou. And I think that captures the essence of where I want to go today with regards to resiliency. I can be changed by what happens, but I refuse to be reduced by it. That's resolve. That's looking at people and things squarely and saying to yourself, I can make what needs to happen for me in a time frame and with the quality that's necessary for me. Now we're going to talk about a few people today that fit that definition, that relate and can be resounding in their thoughts about that quote from Maya Angelou. But before I go too much further, I want to make sure that with that quote, it reminds me about how you might be able to support the people that were influenced by the Marshall Fire. And you can go to the Marshall Fire Support website. It's bouldercounty.org/disasters/wildfires/Marshall. Let me say that again. It's bouldercounty.org/disasters/wildfires/Marshall. And that will get you to a wonderful website that gives a lot of resources on how to support those households and communities that were influenced and dramatically affected by the Marshall fires. I'm really excited about today's conversation. One of the things I'm excited about is answering the question about why. Why do we need to be resolute and have resiliency? And why is it important for me to be aware of my capabilities of being resilient and having resolve? Well, here's a good reason. The picture I've put up on the screen right now is one of a real situation. It's the neighborhood in Superior and houses ablaze. And yet those houses ablaze also are surrounded by homes that the Christmas lights are still on because of how quickly people had to leave their homes and able to survive the devastation. That's resolute. Well, the why there is pretty easy, isn't it? Get out. Save your life. Why do I leave my belongings behind? To save your life. There's a lot of whys that go on in the moment of the situations that are presented to you. So when you look at that, consider this quote. How lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard? So said Winnie the Pooh. That's a great quote for this, because you've got to have some thought about the future beyond the incident you're in, because it's so traumatic, it's so involved. Your brain, your body, everything is on pins and needles, responding to what's happening in front of you. I thought this quote was wonderful because it gives us hope. It gives us a focus on ourselves kind of hope. How lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard? It's the wonderful things that you're leaving behind that are going up into flames. You remember those things, and it's because of those memories that you're willing and able to say goodbye. That quote, in the moment of the tragedy, allows you to be aware of what Winnie the Pooh had to say about resiliency and the how. How do I get through? It's with words like this, it's with memories and symbols and signs that allow you to say to yourself, I got this. I've got the courage and the power to say goodbye when it's really, really hard to do that. Because right there in front of me, I see it going up into flames. It's tough. It's very tough. There's been a lot of things going on. So I'm going to take a moment to continue with the format we have every week. And as we bring these quotes into play and we talk about the why and the how and our mindset moment, I also want to make sure that I say good day to you and I share my gratitude. And my gratitude today is I am grateful for I'm safe, I'm sheltered, and I'm nourished. When we have moments like this at the Marshall fires, some of those things can get delayed. Being sheltered definitely was delayed. Being safe was delayed as long as it took for you to bolt out of your house and get away from the neighborhood and the heat and the sparks and the embers that were dropping into other neighborhoods. And I'm sure you may not still be nourished, but I hope you've got some food in your belly and you've got family and friends around you looking for strategies and methods to help you survive the next steps of recovery and in your efforts to be resolute. It's a very interesting setting in neighborhoods that are affected by things like this, when we've also, as a world, not just as this nation, but as a world, we've gone through the pressures and strains of a pandemic. It's very interesting to me. Well, it may seem like a Maya Angelou day for me, but here's another quote that sets up our next segment about being resolute and facing adversity and how we adapt and adjust. And Maya's quote goes like this: "And when great souls die, after a period peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Space fills with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. We can be and be better, for they existed." Now, thankfully, we didn't have a lot of loss of life in the Marshall fires. But anytime you're presented with a situation where you're being challenged to the point that you're threatened both physically and emotionally, you have to think about your presence, your existence, and being better, both in the moment and going beyond the moment. That's the process then we start to look at going away from the incident, away from the Marshall fires. We have to think about restoring our existence in some way, and maybe that's going to require some creativity. And there's a quote, my partner in life is becoming extremely creative, and she did this wonderful piece of artwork for me where she captured this quote: "Creativity is intelligence having fun." Now, it may be bad timing on an inappropriate moment to suggest that you can have fun right now, let alone be creative. But the more you can get close to that creativity muscle and the intelligence you'll use to be resolute, you will get closer to having fun again. You may even have fun going through the rubble and discovering things you didn't think would survive the fire and the heat. You may have fun and be creative in imagining what's going to replace this foundation and framework that will soon become your new home. We've got to think about existence. A kind of soothing electric vibration running through you. I hope you discover that. I hope that's the beginning of your resolve to look at being strong and resilient through these times. Now, there's all different kinds of things going on in our world and in our nation. The one most effective, the one that has had the most effect on us lately in our Colorado, Denver metro area is the Marshall Fire. But we've got people suffering with food issues, famine, being able to get a meal, at least one meal. We've got people that are they're not safe because they don't have shelter. Like I said, I'm grateful for my being sheltered. I'm grateful for being nourished. And I'm grateful for the safety that I have. But not everybody's that way around the world. And in their small way, I hope they are able to find a creativity through their thinking that will allow them to have some fun and begin the healing process that they need to go through. Or maybe just resolute efforts to get things done. We're very fortunate. We're very, very fortunate. So when you are able to be present, have that feeling of existence, and remember those who were there for you, and you feel that electricity vibrating inside of you, you've got a connection of the why and the how of being resolute and having the resiliency you need to find your creativity through that intelligent brain that you have. So that I hope, cross my fingers, hope that you have some fun and you enjoy the moments going forward, even though they may be surrounded and backlit by the grayness and blackness of soot and embers and ash that took your home. But you're able to move forward. You can see the vision of what's to come. I really hope you do. It's we've got a lot of challenges. And I'm feeling it from a lot of different sources. The athletes I talk to, the executives I talk to, there just seems to be this energy of resistance against us. And many of us are just standing still and letting the energy just kind of hold us in place. And I'm frustrated because I'm encouraging all those I work with and those I have in my life to push through that and be their better self and find the best places for you to excel and enjoy those moments. But I'm telling you, I'm finding a lot of resistance, and I'm seeing people struggling with moving through that energy that's out in our world today and seems to be reinforced by everything that seems to pop up that causes our life a little bit more trauma and desperation, like the Marshall Fire. Well, there are some other areas outside of the Marshall Fire, just shifting gears a little bit from Marshall Fire. I want to make sure that I point out to you that we have some wonderful people here at KUHS Radio. We do some interesting setups around the community, but we are also a footprint of international emphasis. We are all over the world. I like I said last week, or a few weeks ago before the holiday break, I didn't realize people are listening to me in 6 different countries. I just think that's awesome. So for those of you in those other countries, you may not appreciate what's going on in our NCAA athletics and professional sports. But one of the influences by, again, some change that's happened, some energy, some resistance, this happens to be directly related to the pandemic and COVID, bowl games have been canceled. You know, we all excited about bowl season coming because we thought it's going to be opened up and we're going to have some freedom. Well, we still have people that are not, they're resisting getting vaccinated. They're resisting, taking precautions. So as a result, teams have had outbreaks of COVID throughout the teams. So a few games have been canceled. Like, for example, the Hawaii Bowl, which was Hawaii versus Memphis in Hawaii. Now, there's a shame, right? You get to go to a bowl game in Hawaii. Well, interestingly enough, when the facts come out, the Hawaii athletic department were the ones who pulled the trigger and said, we're not doing this. It's not safe. And that was on Christmas Eve. It was a testament to their grit and their determination. But that was the first of several bowl games that were canceled. Another one was the Military Bowl, Boston College versus East Carolina. Now you can debate me about the quality of the games, but the reality is the behavior, the changes that were happening, and perhaps the lack of insight in dealing with the realities of those changes. Too often, when we have to be resolute, we are caught off guard. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't see it coming. Well, it's disappointing to these young players and the staff, the coaching staffs and the players. Fenway Bowl was also canceled with Virginia versus SMU. That was touted to be a wonderful game. It's disappointing because these bowl games are many times tryouts for seniors to be able to, or declared players, could be juniors or seniors, players who are looking to go to the pros. And scouts are trying to find ways to watch these players. Well, when these bowl games are canceled, it's tough to do. Now, there are a few more bowl games coming that certain players are invited to, as we've talked about here before. So we'll see. We'll see how it all washes out. But it's a shame that this kind of energy is there. Now, Arizona Bowl was also canceled. It was Boise State versus Central Michigan. That was on New Year's Eve. And then we have the Holiday Bowl, which was North Carolina State versus UCLA. I don't remember. Boise State wound up playing in another bowl later on that was not canceled. And one of the two teams that couldn't play, Boise State stepped in for. So there's some jockeying around going on that worked out pretty well for Boise State in particular. But then we shift to the basketball. Now, we're deep into the competitive spirit here. Regretfully, my Iowa Hawkeyes got beat by Wisconsin the other night. They came back and had the deficit be, I think 9 points was the deficit. But in my mind, I was thinking after a few weeks ago before the break, the last game they had before the break, I was watching the game, and Kenyon Murray is one of their key players. That kid is just on fire, and is just a great talent, and is a team player. But it seems like his teammates are waiting for him to get ignited before they get excited and they start applying themselves. So they've got some resiliency that they need to discover in their own behaviors as well, in my opinion. I haven't had a chance to share my thoughts with the coaches at the University of Iowa men's basketball program. But we've got the top 10 cancellation game. Now, when I say top 10, it means the 10 games that were canceled because of COVID have some top 10 ranked teams in them. We start with the top of those is Memphis versus Tennessee. But what's interesting to me is number 2 of those top 10 significant games were canceled, and that was Colorado State. Our own Rammies playing Alabama in Birmingham. Well, that at the time that this cancellation happened, Colorado State was 10-0. They are now 11-0. They have since played a game after this cancellation, and they're now 11-0. They're doing pretty good, and I hope they continue to continue their run. Ncaa, their head coach, is an awesome guy. He's kind of a returnee. He was an assistant coach at one time and then left and became a head coach, I think at D2, and then he got a mid-major D1 job, and then he lands back with Colorado State. He's a dynamic strategist. He's an X's and O's guy, but he also knows how to be a player's coach. So I'm sure that not only the talent on the floor being the major contributor to their 11-0 record, but Ncaa, their head coach, and his staff are also major components as to why the Rammies are 11-0. Regretfully, a game that was canceled. Now, fortunately for basketball, it was early enough in the season, even though it's 11 games in, that they didn't have they weren't playing ranked teams. Their RPI is not going to be dramatically impacted, so they still got a major part of their season left to get into the March Madness scenario, and I hope the Rammies do. I really hope that they win the Mountain West tournament and move on from there into the NCAA tournaments with a good seeding. Number 3 in those top 10 ranked teams with games canceled was Louisville, Kentucky. That would have been one heck of a game. It always is. That's interstate rivals. That year after year when I've been watching NCAA basketball, that the Cardinals versus Kentucky, that's just something to behold. And not just the players, the coaches are also there's a lot of drama between coaches over the years. The number 4 is also some placement of a game canceled for NCAA basketball that involves a Colorado team, which is Kansas at Colorado. That would have been a great game since it's at home for Colorado. The Buffs would have been able to go at Kansas right here in Boulder. That's a shame. I don't even know, and I didn't look into whether or not they're going to reschedule any of those things. Now that's the resiliency piece. Those who have the decision-making power, will they resolve it from the standpoint of rescheduling the game, playing the game? Once again, I said it's early enough in the season. It may not have a consequence on records, on win-losses and deciding posturing of teams, but it may for top 10 teams. I mean, the Kansas-Colorado game, that's ranked programs playing each other. In addition to the remaining 6 games that were canceled, Ohio State's in the mix there. You've got Florida State. You've got North Carolina. DePaul and Northwestern are having both great seasons. Those are interstate rivalries in Illinois. USC and Oklahoma State. There's just a lot of dynamics there for the tournament reviewers as far as seeding. All of these games, when they play against ranked opponents, not components, opponents, they are able to get an idea of how to separate teams when it comes down to the seeding for the NCAA tournaments in March. So lots of examples of where we have change happening that we didn't expect, but we had some conditions we could have put in place. We could have had some better behavior about vaccination. I just heard this morning when I was watching The View about the Hispanic communities around the country, around the world actually. They're domestic more to my point on this. In the United States, both blacks and Hispanics, they have historical reasons to be hesitant to get vaccines. Their trust and faith in the medical systems is not that high, and I don't deny that that's a relevant point. But once you're presented with the facts, and you should be resolute in moving forward. Just like if I go back to the fire with the Marshall Fire and talk about the facts. Well, the fact is my house burnt down. That's pretty obvious, right? Now with the vaccine and the pandemic, it's not as obvious. That's as a fire burning down my house. How do I know it's not just a cold? Do I have Omicron or not? And I've heard of some people that really get hit hard with it, more flu-like symptoms, and other people that just have, it's just kind of like a head cold, but I tested positive and I have to sit out. There's a lot of uncertainty. So I would encourage you, go get the answers. Be resolute in your search for getting the answers so that we can have no less for sure, but no cancellations going forward. That the school systems like Colorado State, for example, they've got just a wonderful, wonderful process of taking care of their community and making sure that everybody is properly tested and vaccinated and encouraged to get vaccinated, still allowing them to have choices. But we need to be resolute in our efforts to handle the changes that come about. So with that being said, let's look at some other changes that is an indication of why we need to be resolute and have some resiliency. There's a situation that happened almost a week or more ago with Brady and Antonio Brown. And it wasn't because of Tom. Tom wasn't involved in this, but Antonio had an incident at a home game where he decided to start taking off his clothes. And then he ran out of the stadium. Thankfully, he still had his pants on, but he had taken, and he was gesturing to the crowd and getting their accolades. Oh, I shouldn't say accolades, maybe. He was getting their responses as he pranced out of the stadium. And it's interesting, the video that was taken of AB when he pranced out of the stadium didn't indicate that he was hitching much at all on either one of his ankles. And yet, some of the reporting that came out after this incident, because he left the stadium before halftime and was gone. He was MIA. Very strange. But the rhetoric after that and the reporting was, oh, his ankle didn't feel good. He had to go and get an MRI. All different kinds of stories came out. It became this spinning. We're spinning a story. The spin doctor challenges our resolve as to what is the truth. Who is speaking truth? And is it disguised with all the rhetoric? Now, why would it be disguised? We're talking about resolve, the why and the how. Well, why? Well, money. Money's involved. We don't want a bad story that might affect merchandising, that might affect people buying a ticket. We want to manage our crisis. They don't call it a crisis. They had medical explanations for AB, why he left, and then following that, AB decided he was pissed at Tom Brady for bogarting a trainer. It is Tom's trainer. But AB, it's documented, he stated it very clearly in his text, he had spent some money with Tom's trainer to utilize his services. Well, apparently Antonio was a little bit miffed at that. So he decided to go on a texting spree and send out his thoughts about how he was cheated, how he was disrespected by both Brady and Brady's trainer. Now, here's what I say. All of that's well documented. It's public, social media, all the stuff, you can see it. But it doesn't necessarily represent the truth. And to be really resolute and have high degrees of resiliency, you've got to deal in fact that applies to you, that influences you. And if you don't recognize those facts, then you are hurting. And you're not being served first. More than likely, Antonio Brown is being spoon-fed information that's not accurate from people and sources that have something to gain. So he's not being served first. He's not being told the truth. And yet he's the one that's hurting. He's upset. He's bothered by something. And some of it, to many of us, will seem a bit trivial or a bit juvenile. Like, come on, man. Just deal with it and be okay. Well, I'm telling you that Antonio Brown, going all the way back to Oakland, when Oakland was still, the Raiders were still in Oakland, and Antonio was there, he was hurting then. The coaching staff at Oakland attempted to do some things. And I say attempted, it sounding like it might be sincere, but I don't know the degree of sincerity. So it seems to me that the driving force about truth being shared with those who have the most to gain from being resolute is money. Money delays truth being told to the people like Antonio Brown and others so that they can move on healthy and with a wellness about them, and not this aggravated verbal assault through social media that Antonio decided to start. More than likely because he didn't have all the facts. Now, interestingly enough, to Tom Brady's credit, he's been rather silent. And I commend him for that, because there's no reason to stir this pot. But that also may mean that Tom Brady knows that Antonio Brown is hurting. Well, I'm hoping that Tom Brady and other players are not part of the administration, ownership, and coaching that tends to sacrifice one player for the benefit of the team. Now, Antonio Brown is not just your ordinary player. He has contributed greatly to any team he's ever been with, which is why he gets the big income, gets the big salary. But even he may be sacrificed for the benefit of the team. Tampa Bay is on its way to pushing towards another Super Bowl. I hesitate to say win, because there's a lot of things swirling around that organization right now, the least of which is, or I can't say that Antonio Brown is the primary focus of the things swirling around the Buccaneers, but they've had more than their fair share. And my hat's off to all the other players and leaders within the squad that are trying to settle this down in the locker room and gain control of it. I mean, people like Shaq Barrett and Tom Brady and others on the roster that they've been around the block a few times. They know how to be resolute. They know how to handle change, manage change, bring it on, see it, be aware of it, and then prepare their response to it. But when the spin doctor challenges your resolve, there's a lot of stuff that's going to go on. Well, that's another example I brought to you today about our theme about resiliency, the why and the how. Well, Antonio Brown had reasons that defined his why. Not saying they're right or accurate. The how is yet to be told. I'm hoping how they are resolute with Tampa, the NFL, the players, is to not sacrifice one for the team. That both can benefit, both can survive and move forward. I wish the very best to Antonio Brown, as I do wishing the best to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their team. They've got a lot of things in place. They've accomplished a great deal of things this season, and they're going to continue to go on and accomplish more. But it's with being resolute and aware of, why am I doing this? How do I get this done? Just remember the quotes we talked about here with Maya Angelou. And being present, the existence of that energy, that vibration. You'll know when you are truly in place and resilient at a degree that's going to get the job done. And acknowledge people like Antonio Brown and help him. He needs help. This is not the first time he's had incidences like this. He needs your help. Well, as I say that and we move to the next segment, I'm going to remind you of some things that are kind of special to me. One of those is go on to the KY Honey CBD. That's KY for Kentucky, KYHoneyCbd.com. And check out their products. There's some great full spectrum CBD products there for lotions for the bumps and bruises you might get, or just soothing out a muscle strain, those kind of things, or facial lotions, some really great spa quality facial lotions, in addition to the traditional stuff, you know, the gummies, and they've got some sleep gels that are awesome. I use them to help me when I've gotten so amped up during the day, I'm just kind of excited, energy's going, I need to kind of just calm down before I go to bed. So their sleep gels are awesome. That's KentuckyHoneyCbd.com. Aviette Bioprocessing out there in good old Franklin, Kentucky. High quality. They are a manufacturer of their own distillate, so they control it from literally seed to you, seed to sale. That is not the case for everybody, so take advantage of that when you can. Well, you know, there are so many things in our world that are challenging us these days that put us in a place to really look at our ability to be resilient and focus on how to get to the next step in being present with what we do. I'm going to introduce you to somebody I think you know, and if you don't, you should, because not only is he an example of resiliency personified, but he's also a great person, a person who is doing the things that he wants to do for himself, and that in itself is an outcome of being resilient. You don't sit around and wait for it to happen. You take charge of it. Thank you for that pause. Everyday test of resolve. And who might that be? Well, we've got this face. That was the boy fox. And then you've got this face, which is the loving fox. And then you've got this face, which represents more of what is today for him. And that's the mature fox. And that's Michael J. Fox. MichaelJFox.org is his foundation for finding a cure for Parkinson's disease. Now, I hope that's a neuromuscular disease that affects people differently. What I mean by that is the degree of the tremors, or how fast it progresses, how quickly you lose total control or marginal amounts of control of your body movement is individual. Everybody's different. But Michael J. Fox is committed to finding a cure. He is resolute in that effort. But every day is a test of his resolve. Every single day. I'm so glad to be able to present him and his efforts and the team that he surrounds himself with as example of how to be resilient in the face of challenges. Because his challenge is every single day. I'm going to make this comment not to diminish what people in Superior, Broomfield, Marshall Mesa, any of the neighborhoods affected by the Marshall fires are going through. But eventually it's going to be over for you. You'll feel that energy and that vibration in you, and you'll rebuild a home. And you'll imagine the things you lost and replace them with greater energy and vert. But Michael J. Fox and people with Parkinson's disease or dystonia or any other, a number of neuromuscular diseases, their everyday test of resolution. They're constantly being challenged with it. And yet, that being said, Michael J. Fox with Parkinson's disease, that's just who he is. In his own words, he says, I'm kind of a freak. He's really lucky. He's really fortunate. He's, moments of effervescence and extreme energy, but at the same time, because he deals with it every day, he's got moments where it's not so great. That's kind of freaky. You got kids, you got a spouse, a partner, a loving partner who is there for him, and he's there for her, as the stories go, as the reports have shown, as the pictures have illustrated. But he also has said how full of shit he is. That when he goes through difficult times, why does he resolve himself into being kind of a whiner, crier, sit back and, get off, even though he's been healed? And I'll give you an example. He made this quote, or made this comment, and quote was quoted on it, when after he had fallen in his, I think it was in his kitchen, and fractured his arm, really badly. And it was a surgical repair, and he came up with this resolution for himself while laying on the floor, and I'll say it's the kitchen. I may be wrong, but and he said how full of shit he was, and that it's his life. It's what he has to deal with every day. He has no reason to be asking for excuses. He just puts himself in place to deal with what he has to deal with. Every single day is his test. Now, that being said, you got to deal with the realities, right? The realities of the disease. And the reality of being 60 years old, God bless you, 60 years old. One thing is true between Michael and I will always be older than him. And always be a fan. But regretfully, no more acting. Not because he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it the way that it's going to be given the conditions he's in. He has reconciled himself with that. He has other things that he's got. His kids, they're growing up. Their lives are changing. He's got a wonderful wife and partner. He's got the foundation, michaeljfox.org, looking for a cure. And that's important. I emphasize that because his resiliency to the community of science is not to just raise money from his image, but to be purposeful in his intent. You've heard me say that before, and I say it to athletes, be purposeful with your intent. Just don't go out and run the route on an on-air play with the quarterback and kind of half-ass it. Run it with purpose and intent, like you're imagining there's a defender there. With Michael J. Fox, he's imagining. No, he doesn't have to imagine. It's an everyday occurrence. Everyday test of his resolve. So he's putting his money into research to find the cure for Parkinson's disease, a neuromuscular disease that has some real scientific connections to other neuromuscular diseases. They're sharing information, not presuming that their efforts alone will find the answer. Everyday test of his resolve. And what's really great, when you read stories about him, and Michael's written a few books, you realize that he has a hell of a family, but without any camouflage. Straight up, legit, transparent situation. It's tough. And he's kind of a freak that he's gotten so far with such great help and feeling so good. No, just because he has Parkinson's doesn't mean you label him and saying he's feeling bad. He doesn't say that, and it's because of his family. He has been quoted to say, family comes first. No questions, no exceptions. He's pretty resolute on that. Am I using that word too much? Now, in the recent AARP magazine, Michael has recently been awarded a 2022 Purpose Prize from AARP. He was also featured by the writer for AARP, Andrew Corsello, in an article about him and his efforts within the foundation, but also it was a two-part article. Part of it was about the foundation and Parkinson's disease and what they're progressing and how they're progressing, and the other part, more primary part, was about Michael and his journey and his daily test of his resolve. And it's a wonderful article. So whether you are an AARP benefactor of the magazine or not, go read it, go look it up, go Google, as we do, Andrew Corsello, the writer of that article. You'll also probably find articles on Andrew from ESPN and GQ and others. So it's quality article about the boy fox, the loving fox, and the mature fox. Here's a quote from him to end this segment. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means understanding that something is what it is and that there is got to be a way through it. Every day he's finding a way through it. Every day he's dealing with it resolutely. Michael J. Fox. Gotta love it, man. Wonderful stuff. Time machine. My vision of him on that floating skateboard. Or the other vision is him breaking off the handles of the box cart with the kid and making it into a skateboard. That wonderful, wonderful scenes in a very funny series of movies. Anyway, there's Michael J. Fox, one of my examples of how to be resolute and have resiliency. Well, here's some more. And they're coming up through sporting contests that are coming up. NCAA championship game is coming. It's the Tide versus the Bulldogs. So just think about that a minute. The tide of the ocean, the tide of the lake, and a bulldog. The bulldog runs madly towards the water, and the tide comes in. Does the bulldog survive the tide? Sorry, that's where my brain went. But it's true. It's a game. Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Georgia Bulldogs is coming up, and I'm going to focus on resiliency through the eyes and efforts of a football player, the quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs. And his name is Stetson. How about that for a name? Named after a premier cowboy hat, Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett, quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs. He has been aware of this unattained goal for 40 years, 4 decades since Georgia has been in the place to make an effort to win a national championship. And now they're bringing it up here with Mr. Bennett. Do you have what it takes? Are you ready? Man, that's a lot of noise. The press coming at you with that, chattering away about this and that and the other thing, and about how Georgia's got a chance. Heck, during this season, they weren't even sure Georgia was going to make it to the championship game. Well, they put a whooping on Michigan. Jim Harbaugh and his Michigan Wolverines certainly know about that. Maybe they'll be resolute in the offseason. But that being said, Georgia earned its way to the championship. But there's some talk. There is some pressure. How does Stetson handle the pressure? How is he an example of resiliency through this noise? How does he block that out? Well, interestingly enough, the press has said that technology is what he's using to block out the noise. Now I thought maybe it was, noise canceling headphones, technology, that kind of thing. No. He went the other way. He went low tech as a way to not be able to be gotten in touch with. So he has a flip phone. It may not even be 2G, let alone 5G. And so it's really difficult for anybody to text Stetson, or for Stetson to text them because he's got a phone that maybe has a signal that is from me to the door. And that's as powerful as it is. And he does it on purpose so that he doesn't have to be part of that cycle of rotating social media that references him. Now, that being said, I give the kid credit. He's trying to, in his own way that he controls, manage the situation. But he's on a big, a Division I school that has a huge history of success, especially against Alabama and SEC teams. He's got some noise. He's got some noise just from the campus and the kids, let alone from the media. He knows what's on the line. How does he become resilient to that and really bounce back every time he gets pushed back? Well, his strategy is, I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to do my job the best I can and focus on that. Not about 40 years ago was the last time we had a chance at a national title. Not about all the noise about the Crimson Tide, Georgia Bulldog, back and forth with one another. And he states it this way. Here's a quote from Stetson. He says, maybe I'm not capable of holding that weight on my shoulders, the 40 years kind of thing. It's because it's an awesome responsibility that will potentially lead the Bulldogs to their first national title in 41 years. But he says, no, I'm just treating it as a football game. Do I know what that means to a lot of people? Yes, he does. He's trying to play some kind of, he's not trying to play some kind of savior game by winning the national championships. He just wants to do his job. Now, I'm going to add this to him, and I don't know that Stetson's listening. I don't even know that anybody that knows Stetson is listening. But if they are, send this message to Stetson. Have fun. Stetson, have fun. Enjoy the game that you love and lead by example. But as you do that, Stetson, make sure that you prepare for the Crimson Tide, not about what you know, and you know them well. You may be best friends with some of the people on that team because they played with you in high school. You need to think about the what if that you can control. What if they do this to me in my drop back? They cut off my path that I want to take. What happens with that? What do I do with that? Are you visualizing those pieces so that you can be prepared for what they're going to do? Because they're going to have some influence on the game too. They're going to test your resolve with the way they hit the A gap or they come around the edge. Are you going to have conversations in your what if preparation, talking to your tackles and asking them about what you can do with them to help them prepare for the onslaught of the D end or the circulating linebacker that's coming off, or the corner that decides to have a corner blitz? Who knows what the D coordinator from Alabama is going to throw at you? What if? Be prepared for the what if. And as I say that, you can't lose sight of your major mission. Play your game. And play your game includes the what if. You've got to make sure that you've got the alley to throw the ball. You play your game of getting your vision into those alleys and releasing the ball in a timely fashion. They're going to try to pressure your time and make you move quicker so that you might actually make an error and throw a ball that you don't necessarily see where the ball is going. As a very good head coach once told me, his key statement to his wide receivers, to his quarterbacks, and he was a quarterback himself in college, was always make sure you throw the ball to the right colored jersey. That's wisdom. Can you believe that? And that was sarcasm too. Oh my gosh. So here is my quote to you, Georgia Bulldog Stetson Bennett. Your resolve is not based on the failures of those who came before you. 41 years ago, that's their gig, not yours. In the moment, on the day, with the ball in your hand, that's where your resolve steps in. It's not about other people. Your resolve is based on each moment that you face the circumstances and the people and things within those circumstances. Man, I wish you some luck, man. I'm going to be watching the game. I'm excited about it. I know people on both teams, so to me it's about competition, having a great game that represents the championship for NCAA football between the Crimson Tide and the Georgia Bulldogs. Looking forward to it. Oh, gosh, what a great day. What a great day that'll be. So with that picture of Stetson in front of you, I'm going to take a pause again. Having a great Friday here at KUHS Denver. Where, we broadcast all over the world. It's a wonderful streaming of music and words of wisdom. I hope I'm giving you words of wisdom, but I know there's a wonderful group of people that do. We have Sylvia on Sunday. Yesterday was Nikki Burnett talking about foundational nutrition. Just some awesome stuff. Tune in any day of the week and get some great insights on food for your heart and soul through the music, as well as food for your brain and your body as it relates to new knowledge that you can apply in ways that will help make you better. Loving that. So, drink it up. And by the way, it's just water. I don't do that Hollywood thing because I'm not in Hollywood. Now, here are some strategies. When you're looking at being resolute, set some positive expectations. Because change is coming. You can count on it. There's no way of getting around it. And whether it's a little change or a big change, like the things we've talked about. The changes that are coming through the line against the Georgia quarterback. There's going to be linebackers and DNs and all that kind of stuff. Or the more catastrophic situation with Marshall Mesa in the Marshall fires. There's no way of getting around that. The red-orange burning ember lands on my house, it's going to probably burn it. Not much I can do about it unless I happen to have more than a very large hose, which most of those houses did not. But set positive expectations to get through that. You need to be present. As Maya Angelou said, have an existence to understand and be aware of the energies that are going to drive you. Because when change comes, it will bring lovely things for you. I hope you're going to be aware enough to recognize those changes when they appear, like those wonderful pansies that pop out of the ground in the springtime. While you're doing that and thinking about it, also consider surrounding yourself with those people you trust. You need to have that there to bolster your confidence in yourself and continue to address the changes that are coming, that I hope that you will dictate, that you will create through your actions. You will drive the change that is necessary to support you working on the issues that you can control. Stay focused on that. The building of the house, the building of the items that go into that new house, the satisfying your heart and your mind about the future being something worthwhile, as beautiful and as precious as a pansy. As you do that, and the hecticness of the situation piles on, because look, I've dealt with insurance companies, lawyers perhaps, maybe even the local authorities. Whatever your situation is, you're going to have lots of things coming and people coming at you. Take moments for you. Quiet moments for you. Notice I said quiet, not alone. You don't have to be alone to have a quiet moment to reflect on what's going on. That quiet moment could be just walking down the sidewalk in front of the new foundation of the home that's going to go up for you. Take moments for you. Or it could be walking along the sidelines as you're listening to the conversations of your teammates, getting prepared for this wonderful national contest. But take moments for you. While you're doing that, hold yourself accountable to the things you need to do for you in addressing those changes, working with the people you trust, so you can maintain your control in the moments that you identify for you. If you set the positive expectations, you are, through the things I've just mentioned, promoting your resolve, reinforcing and validating that you are present and you are creating and feeling the energies that vibrate within inside of you. Resiliency is a great thing. especially in the world of sports, because we have to change quickly. We get pushed, we get knocked down, we got to come up quick. There's no two ways about it. Those teams, those individuals on those teams that do not pop up quickly typically do not win the contest. Regardless of your situation, if you've got time to pop back and see what's coming at you again, then make sure you're doing with positive expectations, so that, as Irving Berlin says, the song is ended, but the melody lingers on. The fire has burnt out. The play has stopped. The tremors in my hands and my body have subsided. But the melody lingers on. The melody of who I am, what I do, and what I have for myself still lingers on. Love being here. And if you have anybody that may have missed our broadcast today, which is live, have them check out 360 Performance on any podcast platform, Spotify podcast platforms, or Apple or Google, and you can find 360 Performance and all our library of podcasts right here from KUHS Radio. So get involved with taking what we give to you to help you be the better person that you already are, and grow that and build it. And as you do that, it's not enough to just realize it, but make plans that help you take action, especially with today's topic about resiliency. It's been a great day today with you. I'm always grateful to the efforts of KUHS Denver and what they do for me. Thank you so much, everybody. This is Dr. Whiteman, coach with 360 Performance, every Friday at 11 a.m. right here at